the definition that you are going to see in Java or anywhere, this is not how the definition was drafted, but this is how it is understood by the people who are giving the interviews. This is not how the definition was drafted in many theories, but this is how it is understood. Right? This is how it is understood, but this is not the right answer. So if you ask me what the right answer is going to be, it is very simple. Checked exceptions are checked by the compiler during the compile time. So the answer is very simple. What are checked exceptions? If you face this question, you can answer just like this. Checked exceptions are checked by the compiler. By the compiler. And it is not actually an exception. So unchecked exceptions are the one that are not checked by the compilers. So this is the right answer that one has to give in the interview room. So which is checked exceptions are checked by the compiler, and it is not actually an exception. It's not actually an exception. Compiler is going to check if the particular code is going to generate an exception or not. It's going to give you a warning. Like you will get a warning. The warning will be given by the compiler whether the particular code is going to generate an exception or not. Those exceptions are called as checked exceptions. That's why we call it as checked exceptions are checked by the compiler. Unchecked exceptions are something that are not checked by the compiler. So it happens in both the exceptions happens in the runtime. But the point here is whether which exceptions are checked, which exceptions are not checked. That's the question, right? If you ask me whether the exception is going to happen in the compilation time, it will never happen in the compile time. No exception happen in the compile time. In the compilation time, during the compilation, only you see errors. For example, let us say that this is a compiler. The compiler is going to handle only the errors. It is not going to handle the exception. Right? All the exceptions are going to occur in the runtime itself. So runtime in the sense, when we talk about Java virtual machine is something that is going to perform the runtime action. So all the exceptions will be occurring in the runtime only. But the job of the compiler is to check what? Whether if there is any possible for a particular code. Whether there are any possibility for a particular code to generate an exception in the runtime. Right? So if it is checking, they are called as checked exception. If it is not checking, they are not called as checked. They are called as unchecked exception. We will see an example for the better understanding. Let us say that if a.java, I'm just writing a piece of Java code in the name of a.java. So I need to perform the compilation. Right? The compiler will check only the exceptions that are that is going to occur in the runtime. For example, in this case, if I am writing a piece of code like I am trying to mention if I am trying to mention any file in my Java snippet, any file. The file can be anything, a text file or a picture, anything, any file, and I am just giving the path directory in my Java code, right? So compiler will see this code and compiler will analyze this code, and compiler will be like understanding that this file is going to generate an exception because in the runtime there are high chances that this file may get missing. Right? During the runtime, there are high chances that the file will not be found in the runtime. In the compilation, we are giving the path, But in the runtime, this path may not be available. Like in this directory, the file might have been deleted by some other person, right? So there are chances that the exception may occur. In this case, there are high chances that the exception may occur, right? So the compiler will inform the developer this particular code is going to generate an exception. I am not going to compile this code, right? Because you have to handle this code in such a way that in the runtime it is not going to generate any exception. And let us understand in this simple real-time analogy. So let us understand this thing in the real-time example. Again, I am going to show a small picture. Let me open that picture. Okay, let me take this picture. So just see this picture, right? The picture says it shows the child is a student is going to write a public examination, and this is a parent. Just for the imagination, a parent and child, right? So child is about to give the final exam. The job of the parent is to check. Usually, every parent will check whether the student, will remind the student whether he is carrying the hall ticket, he is carrying additional pens, right? So that he will not face any issues in the examinations hall. So all the checking, all the pre-checks, all the prerequisites is taken care by the parent, right? The first prerequisite is whether you are carrying a pen. The second one is whether you are carrying the hall ticket, right? Whether you are carrying an additional pen, because there are high chances that the pen that you are carrying might be running out of ink, so that there should be an additional pen, so that if at all you are facing any issues with the pen, you can handle that by taking the additional pen. These things will be checked by the parent, right? At the same time, some parents are like, show your hall ticket, show your additional pen, and show how we are going to handle this situation, like things like that. You need to show your parent before even getting into the examination hall. The parent, in this case, parents are checking, parents are doing the basic checks, right? So after doing the basic check, as soon as the student is showing up the hall ticket, additional pen, and the things that is required to handle the situations, handle the unfortunate situations, the student is allowed to go to the examination hall. Pre-checking is done, right? Likewise, in the real time, the compiler is going to do the pre-checks. Compiler is going to do the pre-checks, and these pre-checks are called as checked exceptions. Pre-checking by parents. Let me take a small piece of code for better understanding. So this is the small piece of Java code. Okay, so this code will make a lot of sense. So this is my Java code. A simple Java code. Only 7 lines of code is there. See? So I have a main method, and in the main method I have declared two statements. Pay some attention here. This is very, very important. First statement is print writer. This is a class. Print writer is a class. Forgot about this. We will discuss this in file handling. Print writer pw equal to new print writer, and we are declaring a path. A developer has declared a path. So in the C drive, there is a file called hello.txt, right? So developer has given an instruction saying that please go to this file, open this file. After opening this file, just write hello Java. These are the two statements given by the developer, and it is declared in the main method, right? So execution starts from the first line. So the what happens here, actually, the JVM, the main thread, is going to check the location. It will search for this location. As soon as it finds this, it finds this file. What it will do next? It will write this instruction, which is allow Java. This is something that is a task for the Java. Task given by the developer, and this task needs to be done by the Java. Right? But before that, what happens? This Java code snippet needs to be compiled. So there is first stage, compilation stage. So this is the, just imagine that this is the compiler. So this is a simple compiler. So compiler is going to compiler will be very strict, right? Why it will be very strict? So we have defined a code. So this is the code that we have defined. Pay some attention here. So this is the code that we have defined. So this code has potential enough to generate an exception. Why it has potential enough to generate an exception? We have just specified a path, but in the runtime, there are high chances that this file may not be available, or this file might have been deleted. There are high chances. The runtime, there are high chances. The compiler will say, so as a developer, I am saying, hey compiler, can you please compile this code? Compiler will say, I am not going to compile this code. Because it will ask me, where is the handling code? Right? If this file is not available in the runtime, I need an alternate file where I can write this information, which is allow Java. So that alternate information, that alternate file is nothing but the handling code. So usually we declare the handling code in a try and catch block. We will discuss about the try block and catch block in the future topics. So you can use try and catch block, or you can use throws keyword. These things we will discuss that in the future. This is how you will handle an exception. It will ask us to handle the exception. So there are high chances that the exception may occur in the runtime. Where is handling code? So it will not compile. Compiler will not proceed further. Compiler will never proceed further. It will ask us to it will give an exception, and it will ask us to please provide the handling code. So handling code is nothing but either we can use try catch block, or we can use throws keyword. These things we will discuss that in future. Okay. Now here what compiler is doing? Compiler is checking first. It is doing the pre-checking. Pre-checking in the sense it is asking us likewise, in my previous example in the real-time analogy, the parent is asking the child whether he is carrying the additional pen or not. Likewise, compiler will ask the developer to handle this code, right? Until and unless we handle this code, it is not going to compile, right? So it is not going to compile, and what it is doing, it is throwing an error. So this error is called as what? Checked exception. This is what? Checked exception. Why checked exception? Because it is checked by the compiler. It's checked by the compiler. That's why we call it as checked exception. Of course, we can avoid this checked exception by just giving the handling code. We need to give the handling code. Unless and until we provide the handling code, the compiler will not going to compile this code successfully. It will ask us to it will throw an error, and it will say I'm not going to compile the code until and unless you show the handling code. In this case, the parent is asking the child to show the all ticket or show the additional pen, so that he will be allowed to the examination hall, because that is one of the probable potential exception that potential situation that a child can face before entering into the exam hall. Because something may wrong, even though we carry 10 pens, if our time is not good, if our fate is not good, all the 10 pens will not work. That is secondary. But the things that we need to take care has to be taken care. Right? Likewise, compiler will be asking the developer to it is okay to compile this code, but it will ask, please show me the handling code so that I will be happy to compile this code. Right? So this situation is called as what? Checked exception situation. It is checked by the compiler. That's why it is called as checked exception. If I run this code, you will understand now. So this is a code that I have written. I'm just saving. I haven't provided any handling code here. Right? So let me run this. Let me open command prompt. So let me go back to that Java C space test.java. Sorry, Java C space test dot. Okay, let me go to that. See, it is not compiling. I try to compile this code. It is not compiling. What it is saying? Unreported exception. Let me copy and paste it here. It is not ready to compile because it is asking us to show the handling code. Unless and until you show the handling code, I am not ready to compile. But where is handling code? We haven't declared any handling code. So this is there. See, unreported exception. It is just, it's not an exception. It is just reporting an exception. Unreported exception, file not found exception. So in the runtime, there are high chances that this file, hello.txt file, may not be available in the system in the specified location. Must be caught or declared to be thrown. It is asking us to include an handling code. As simple as that. If you include, if you show the handling code, I am okay to run. Right? In this case, this unreported exception is something that we are talking about. This is what checked exception. Is this really an exception? It is not an exception. It is an alert that you are going to get this exception if you are not showing me the handling code. It is an alert. It is alerting us in advance. Like here, the parent is alerting the alerting his child to make sure that is carrying extra pen. Like that, it is alerting us to make sure that you are carrying an handling code. Unless and until you show me the handling code, I will not perform the compilation. This is what the checked exceptions are. In simple words, we can say checked exceptions are something that is checked by the compiler. So this is what it means, right? So this is making some sense. So what if I want to run this code, execute? How to satisfy the compiler now? We can satisfy the compiler by adding the handling code. Just by adding the handling code. How do I do that? Just put this code in a try block. So this is something we will discuss, this try and catch in the future topics. That is going to be very interesting. For now, this is what the handling code is. Just declare the statements in the handling code. So this is a simple handling code that I am declaring. Println file not found. So if this file is not there, this file is actually not there, I have an handling code now. I have used try, I have used the catch. File is there, hello Java will be printed in that file. If the file is not there, this will be executed. But now we don't face any compilation issues. If I try to compile this, okay, this is another syntactical error. Hello.java. Okay, let me remove this. Catch, okay, small letters. So now we don't see any compilation issues because now if you give this code to the compiler, again I'm copying the same code. Again I am giving this piece of code to the compiler, right? The job of the compiler is to check if there are any errors, right? So the code will be sent to the compiler. Now compiler will be very happy because it is asking the developer if this code is potential enough to generate an exception. Which code? This code. So there are chances that this particular path or particular file may not be available in the runtime. There are high chances for this. So this code is potential enough to generate what? Generate an exception. So okay, that is okay. It is going to generate an exception. But whether this code is included, this code is handled properly or not. Yes, it is handled properly. This time it is not going to throw any errors. Right? In the previous example, if the student is showing the all ticket and the additional pen, everything, the parent will be very happy, and the parent will give the send off to the student to the examination hall or examination center. Likewise, compiler will be very happy, no, as soon as it sees the handling code. Right? These are the checked exceptions. So in one line answer, if anyone is asking you what is a checked exception in Java, the answer, simple answer can be this. A straightforward answer: checked exceptions are checked by the compiler, and it is actually not an exception. It is a warning, we can say. It is just a warning given by the compiler that during the runtime there are high chances that the exceptions are going to occur. We can say that it is not an exception. Don't mistake this. It says unreported exception. It is not an exception. It is an error. Unreported exception is just an error. It is just a warning you, during the runtime you may face file not found exception. So please make sure that you are declaring this you are handling this file not found exception. How did we handle this? We just added try block, and we used try and catch blocks. This is how we handle this, right? So checked exceptions are checked by the compiler, and it is not an exception. It is just an error, right, that the compiler throws, or you can say the compiler generates if the code is not handled properly. The code that has potential enough to generate an exception very often is called as checked exception. Okay, these are the checked exceptions. So in the real time, what are the other checked exceptions? So examples, we have just seen one example, which is file not found exception. This is, if you want to give an example, you can say file not found exception is one of the examples of the checked exception. File not found exception. So this is all about checked exceptions, and again we are going to see a few more examples for the better understanding. Just type S in the chat box if you have understood till now.